to answer the phone, and the phone was ringing, but it wasn't plugged in. I said, because you didn't believe me to begin with, and I prayed to my brother to give you a sign.
This is a plug-in, like into the wall kind of phone?
Yeah,
And it rang without being plugged in?
Yes. Yes.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God, those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Thank you so much for joining me here for the Touched by Heaven podcast. Boiled down, we're about hearing God's voice in our daily lives, hearing God's voice. And so we have these really loud, if you will, loud experiences people are having to show obviously this has to be a God thing, right? And then we look at our own lives, and maybe it's quieter ways that God is talking to us that we're missing. But this episode is called Hello from Heaven. So I have stories here about God saying hello from heaven. Why? Why? What's the point? Why does God do it? Well, to show his true existence? Absolutely. He wants us to know absolutely there's confirmation that he is there. That's very reassuring. But he wants more than that. You know what he wants? You know what he wants? He wants conversion. What does that mean? Well, that's an ongoing process. When I look back 19 years ago, when I had this Bible roulette thing that I think I'm inventing Bible roulette. I don't know. Totally inspired by God. I have this Bible here, and it's like, I know, I'll just flip it open to a random page, stick my finger in there, and he's going to tell me what I need to know right now. And he did. He absolutely did. How on an 1,100-page book did I flip open, put my finger right on the perfect passage for me, Psalm 40? I cried out to you. You plucked me out of the muck. You put me on firm ground. You put a new song in my throat for others to hear and be affected by. That is my life. That's where I was. That's where I am. That's where I was headed. The whole thing. Here I am singing with this new song in my throat, right? Conversion. And that started a process. God was real. Christ was real. Crucifixion was real. Resurrection was real. I have to say, I'm sorry. Here comes the conversion. Here comes conversion. I had to say, I'm sorry. Now I have to fix something. I have to start fixing things in my life. That's what all this is about. The awareness that it changes you. It has to change you. I had to change. I had to. Otherwise, it was just all out of whack. Then it was just God being dazzling for dazzling purposes. No, I had to change something. And so I began the process of going down the list of all the ways I need to change. Conversion, getting more and more Christ-like is the idea, right? Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to some people here today that all had these really cool, loud moments of hearing God's voice in their daily lives, right? And then there comes that moment of conversion. I have to change something. I have to fix something, right? Or somebody has to change. Let's start with Diane.
Well, it started actually 22 years ago.
22 years ago, Diane donated one of her kidneys to her brother, who was diabetic, disabled. He's got 2 kidneys that are not in good shape at the time. He was on dialysis 3 days a week, headed for 4. He needs a kidney, and she says, well, let me see if I'm a match. She goes in. She is a perfect match. He goes, you sure? He actually delayed things for about a year. You sure you want to do this? Yep, this is what I want to do. This is Diane. She says, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So she heads in for the procedure of giving up one of her kidneys. And is God pleased by that? Does he want to give her an atta-girl and a lot more? You bet he does. So he sends this huge hello from heaven.
When I was at the hospital for 3 days in a row, this early in the morning, this being, a gentleman came in, and his face like glowed. He was like so handsome. Didn't say anything to me. Would come over and he'd touch my arm, and then he would leave. He had a name tag on. He had a white jacket on. The name tag, it wasn't like a tag. It was just like a little white sliver that said Dr. Gabriel. But he never said anything, and just his face, I still could see his face. His face was like lit up, I mean, he just made me feel like everything's going to be okay. But anyway, after the 3 days, I got discharged, and they asked me how my stay was at the hospital. I said, oh, it was really nice. I said, but the best part, every morning, Dr. Gabriel would come in and he would just kind of look at me and touch my arm. I says, and it just made my day just so happy, you know. And they said, Dr. Gabriel, we don't have a Dr. Gabriel. So I'm thinking it was Gabriel the Archangel.
Gabriel, the Archangel. How perfect. The messenger, right? He's carried out a few important messages in his day. Oh, Mary, God has an idea about who should be the mom of Jesus? Yeah, that Gabriel. And every day he walks in, smiles at you, glows, touches you on the arm, and splits.
Touches me on the arm and leaves.
Not a word.
Not a word. Nope. Not a word.
And you never engaged him in conversation?
No, because I was just like astounded at how he looked. You know, and then I'm thinking, I look so horrible laying in the bed, you know. Really, I never said anything to him, and he never said anything to me. He just touched my arm, and I could feel his hand. It was like a warm touch, and then he would leave.
As you look back on it, are you surprised you didn't say a word to him?
I am surprised because usually I'm quite talkative, you know. Or I would say, wow, you're so handsome or something. I always say something stupid, you know.
So when you told the nurse this, you know, that Dr. Gabriel, did she ever say things like, you know, it's amazing the experiences people have in here? Did she ever any kind of hint of that?
No. Mm-mm. She didn't say anything. No. She just said, well, we don't even have a Dr. Gabriel. I said, what? And then she walked out. It's like, okay. and Dr. Gabriel, I mean, come on. You know, if it would have just been like one time that I saw Dr. Gabriel, I would have thought, well, maybe I was hallucinating or something. But 3 times he came in.
Have you noticed that God's big on the number 3?
Oh, I got goosebumps again. I didn't even think of that.
You got Trinity. You got 3 days until the resurrection.
Oh, my God. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Wow.
At what point did you kind of go, Gabriel, angel, I just gave a kidney? I mean, that's a tremendous gift you gave, as you're well aware. You have 2 of something, and you're giving away 1, and if anything goes wrong with the other one, you're in deep doo. Yeah,
I know. That's what my kids said. I have 2 sons, and my older son, he was against it. He says, what if something happens to your kidney? Yeah. I said, well, you're not supposed to think that way. I said, hopefully everything will be okay. And every year on the day that we did this, he brings me roses.
22 years. Well, it is an incredible gift you gave, Diane. I mean, that really is. That's over the top that most of us look at ourselves and go, boy, would I do that? Not only are you giving up, you know, half your supply and the other half could go, you never know. Generally speaking, we get through our lives and we're okay. But the other part of it is it's painful. It's a painful process.
And you know what? Only in, I think they said 2% of the people that donate have any kind of problems. And I was in the 2%. I have nerve damage.
In taking out the kidney, the doctors actually had to remove one of Diane's ribs in order that the doctor's hand could reach in there and cradle the kidney just right. But in the process of taking out the rib and reaching it somehow, it caused nerve damage. And how does that manifest itself? What do you feel now?
Every day, well, it's every day. It feels like ants are crawling.
Where the kidney was, you were feeling it, like ants are crawling around for a little while, like or all day, or what?
No, all the time. It's all the time.
Okay.
And my brother does not know. My brother does not know that I have this nerve damage because he would be devastated.
Say what? Yeah, for 22 years, she's kept this a secret. Her brother doesn't know to this day. Her brother doesn't know that she has nerve damage, and she feels like she has ants crawling in that spot in her back every day, 24/7. 22 years, and you've never told him?
No, I've never told him.
You are something. Yeah, you are something, Diane. Oh. You are something. Okay, if I just call you Diane, can we do? Are you okay with this? If we talk about that, I include this? Because chances of him finding out, unless you would like him to find out through the podcast, I mean, that you can always do it that way too. Because you're okay with this, aren't you? You're okay with this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yep. I would do it again. It's just, I didn't even second guess anything. He said, I hate to ask you this, but do you think you'd consider? I go, yeah, I'll do it.
It's not too hard to understand, is it, why a very happy God would send a hello from heaven, sending a very happy angel, smiling, handsome, glowing, to tap her on the arm and kind of give her an attagirl, if you will. Just thank you. Thank you. Where's the conversion? Well, you hear the wow. You hear the wow in Diane. She's just excited to be, this is from heaven. She's excited. This confirmation, this verification, confirming that, yep, there's my God, right? There's my God. But I think the bigger conversion really is for me and maybe for you. I mean, listen to that. I mean, how tightly do we hold on to the physical things in this life? And she's going, kidney? Okay, I got another one. No big deal. Okay. There's that aspect. How many of us would put ourselves through the pain of the process and the questioning whether or not, well, what if something goes wrong with my kidney? She just blew right by that, very Christ-like, right? What she was willing to sacrifice. But then there's that other part, though, not telling her brother. That's a moment of conversion for me, maybe for you. 22 years of keeping that a secret? No, I don't want to bother him. To have that kind of heart, I don't want him thinking about that. I don't want to bother him. I don't want him feeling guilty. I don't want to do that. It's huge. So, because the spectrum for telling and not telling, the spectrum for the reaction is huge. It's all the way from don't tell him, I don't want him to know, all the way to the other side of the things I do for you. I mean, this could be an everyday thing. The things I did for you. I have ants crawling in my back because if that's okay, I'm offering it up. It's okay. This huge spectrum of where do we fall in that spectrum of letting people know how wonderful I am, And there she is, just humbly keeping it a secret. Until now, does she share this podcast with him? Probably not. And if she does, God bless her. After 22 years, maybe he should know, right? He should know. I don't know. However God wants her to handle that, I have no doubt Diane will handle it. But there's the conversion, my conversion, maybe yours, of that spectrum. How do I handle things like that? How do I handle not wanting to bother people? How do I handle hanging on to physical things? Beautiful, beautiful story of conversion. Hello from heaven. Who does God call next?
Well, I think the dimes story is fascinating.
Oh, okay, Chris Hughesby. He's a football coach, and he's got another one of these dime stories. What's the deal with the dimes and the pennies from heaven? Somebody dies, all of a sudden pennies start appearing. We've done at least 1 or 2 episodes of that. Every time I run one, I get more. I get more from people going, yeah, all of a sudden pennies started. They show up, and they show up in places that are impossible, and they show up in numbers that are impossible. This kind of goes to the best example was Linda Lamarca, my hygienist, telling the story of how after her mom died, she found 100 dimes to the number 100 dimes over. I think it was a year and a half or so, and then it stopped. $10. 100 dimes, $10 in dimes that just would appear in the weirdest places. Countertops that she cleaned, and then there'd be a dime there. Or a dime would appear in the top of a car, just crazy places like that. Well, for Chris Hughesby, his grandfather passed away, and he's very close to his grandfather, and then dimes start appearing. And he's listened to the podcast, so he's kind of wondering as this process goes on, especially after the first one.
I was a football coach for a university, and so I had to get up early to go to the team meal. And as I was walking in, I saw a dime, laying on the ground, and I didn't make the connection at that point. I was like, I knew our grandpa. He liked to gamble, and he was always lucky. He always won. We always called him Lucky Pierre and all that type of stuff. And I took a picture and I sent it to my family. I was like, oh, maybe it's just a sign from Grandpa, And in the summer, we were working on a deck and, refixing it up, changing the boards and everything like that. And I was kind of emotional during the whole project because, around that time we were cleaning out my grandparents' house. I was getting a lot of his tools. So I was kind of like thinking about that a lot. And I was like, man, I just got to figure out something nice to say on Facebook about it and kind of remembrance and just all that stuff. And as I was thinking heavy about what I was going to say, I went up to the bathroom and started getting ready, or, I think cleaning myself off from working. And that's when I found the dime sitting next to the sink. So it was really kind of crazy. And that's kind of like when it like hit me. I was like, oh, that dime story, and then just, time passed and I took a picture again. I was like, I'm just going to, just in case I tell this story again, I just wanted like visual evidence, and then, my grandma got moved closer to us to be in like dementia care. And I was thinking to myself, man, I just haven't gone lately. And thinking about my grandpa, I was like, I should probably go. So I opened up the cabinet to get some cereal, and there's a dime sitting right there. So I just thought, I was like, wow, maybe this dime thing is for real. Those three things couldn't have timed out, better. So it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, they're not exactly places where you normally would find a dime. That's the beauty. Or in the cupboard getting cereal. That's great. Is there conversion in dimes being showered down from heaven? Sure. Strengthens our faith, reminds us again the reality of God, that grandfather's in heaven. I mean, all those wonderful things. But in Chris's case, there's more to the conversion. Yes, it strengthens and fortifies the faith and everything. But for him, in this last year and a half, 2 years, that's just kind of part of his story, because as he's getting closer in his faith and kind of coming back to his faith, if you will, he's 37 now, getting stronger in his faith. Something happened one night, because once again, we're trying to fix things, right? Conversion is realizing that there's a God, there's a Jesus that suffered, that we're supposed to be repentant, say we're sorry and all of that, and change. We can't just stay the same when we know this stuff. We have to change. We have to look at ourselves and say, what's wrong with me? What doesn't God like so much? I got to work on that, right? So one night, Chris is praying, and that's what's on his mind. Well, I got to fix something here, right?
What's something else I can work on? I'm just motivated. I just want to feel better. All of a sudden, this word anger comes like is spoken to me or said to me, and it was just way out of the blue. I remember laying in bed, praying, eyes closed, all that type of stuff, and I was like, huh, anger. I was like, all right, and like I never thought of myself as being a mad person, or an angry person. That I was always good at managing stress. Like I figured out a way to be like calm about a lot of stuff, and maybe that's how I sort of managed anxiety in the past. I don't know. So I was like, oh, weird, but okay, anger. And then just, it was kind of weird, just over like the next year and a half, it was always in the back of my mind. But I could, having young kids and the frustrations of balancing all that type of stuff, I could see myself getting madder easier. And I don't know why. And then it just, it was just like a reminder for me to like always just put myself in check, because I was like, I don't want to get so mad I say something I regret, or do whatever, but it was crazy, and I never told, I don't even know if I like told anybody. And I told my wife recently, and she was like, oh, interesting, because anger would have been the last thing I would have felt God would have told me, but I asked him to tell me something that I needed to fix in my life, and so it's been good because it's caused me to be more in the moment, I think, and just think a little bit more before reacting with, especially just having young kids and sometimes the frustrations with, them not listening and things like that. But I think it's helped me in the long run.
Yeah, I think there are a few things that do more to damage relationships than anger, and we're kind of oblivious to it. We're kind of, because that's just part of us, and you just have to understand that's who I am, and so that's the way it goes. So just get over it. That's my, and we don't even realize what we're doing, because when we walk away from any kind of conversation, did we just get closer or farther apart? And if we're always demonstrating that anger, we're just driving people from us. We're just and we're kind of oblivious. I think people who are angry are kind of oblivious to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, having kids, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. They get a lot of the attention, and I think there's times in my relationship with my wife where we kind of spread apart a little bit more. And I know I was frustrated at stuff like that, like not feeling the connection as much as we used to. And maybe I was getting frustrated at that, but it was just, I thought just anger was just so out of the blue, but it was such a perfect reminder that I just need to sort of refocus everything. And, I think even my wife and I's relationship has gotten a lot better just in the last year, just because I've been more open to talk about stuff with her and expressing my feelings more versus just getting mad and maybe just saying something I probably shouldn't in an argument,
Yeah. And kudos to you, Chris. Kudos for asking God, what do I need help in? Tell me because once again, we can be oblivious to maybe what everyone else sees. We don't see the plank in our own eyes, sometimes. And so to ask, what do I need help in, and to would you again, going back to it, it's not, you didn't hear an audible word, but somehow that word, that temperament got into your head, anger.
It was just boom, anger. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And sure enough, I could see the signs over like the next year. Like, okay, I can see myself getting overheated or yelling a little bit more than I should because kids are slow to get to school, or whatever reason it was. But I think it's just made me a better person in the long run. And so it's kind of crazy because really over the last sort of year and a half, listening to your podcast, I listened to an anxiety podcast. I was using the Bible devotional app, and just all those things just sort of like made me more comfortable with my faith. It made it a little stronger.
Another part of Chris's ongoing conversion stems from something that was part of his faith early on in life.
I listened to your rosary episode once, or whenever it came out, and I have a rosary, and I hadn't prayed it forever, because I was in Catholic school, and that was probably really the last time I really did. It was when I was in Catholic school, elementary school, and I was going through like a little tougher time with the anxiety type of stuff, and I was like, I'm just going to pull this thing out, and I had to look up online how to like do it again, like which prayer to say at it, which bead, and I like went through like a third of it, the rosary, and it like things like calmed down for like a week. It was like crazy. I was like, oh wow, maybe this is all over, and eventually, little things kind of trigger things again, but it was like, wow, that seemed to help, so I just was like, that rosary thing was, it's amazing. I hate to say the word concept, but it's just like, it's crazy that how it's worked, and just hearing your stories and the people's stories of the rosary, kind of brought me back to trying it again, or doing it again.
What's cool, Chris, is that you knew where to find the rosary, that you still had it from somewhere.
It was the same rosary that I put in my grandpa's hand when he was dying on, he's kind of on his deathbed, and we were there for pretty much his final moments, and I put it in his hand too. And it may have been his. I don't remember how I had it, but I recall at least having it with him there. And then I just kept it next to my bed.
Thanks, Chris. And of course, the big takeaway in his conversion story, beyond dimes from heaven and that fortification of, yes, there is a heaven, but beyond that, to actually pray to God, okay, you tell me what I need to work on. Anger. Oh, okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Hello from heaven. What's next?
Yeah, you got to get sort of jarred with it, like.
Yeah, like you should get jarred with it. That's what the miraculous does. It jars us. It wakes us up. It's supposed to anyway. It's God shooting off the flare gun saying, hey, do you see me here? I'm doing something here. Yes, to prove that I'm here, but also conversion. This is Terry, and she's seen some things.
That my loved one maybe passed on, but they're letting me know they're spiritually with me, and they perform a miracle in front of me.
Over the course of a year and a half, Terry lost 3 very close family members. It was a very difficult time for Terry, but God repeatedly said in his own ways, hello from heaven. It's okay. It's okay. I got him. Everything's okay. Now, we'll share a couple of these experiences here because they were very cool. And not only for her own conversion of going deeper in her faith, but for those around her as well. When her brother Perry passed, Terry and her husband Marty went to the funeral home. They wanted some alone time before others came to the wake. And they had an experience. God sent a very definite hello.
We went into the funeral home, and there was nobody in there, which I was happy there wasn't, because I wanted to have some prayers with them alone. I'm praying on my brother's hands, and I'm putting my hands on his hands, and I'm saying some prayers and looking at him, just talking to him. Then all of a sudden, while I have my hands on my brother's hands, and I looked up, and all the flowers above the cascade of roses and all the different colors, every different color of flowers you could think of, were like someone put a giant fan and was blowing them, like swishing, like all over the place, like they were dancing, like boom, 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 all over above the casket. And the flowers behind him were dancing in unison. So I'm just, I'm sitting there for 1 second. I'm watching this unison of flowers dancing, right? And I said, Marty, come here. You got to see this. Marty, hurry up, get over here. And Marty was looking for a vent or something. He's checking out.
This was really weird. These flowers were like I said, somebody put a giant fan on them, and they were just like. So I'm looking for. I said, wait a minute, there's got to be a heating vent blowing on them or something. Nothing. And I asked the woman that worked there, and she goes, "You'd be surprised the stories that come out of this place."
Yeah.
Wow.
So how long did this last?
As soon as she took her hands off him, she took her hands off her brother, and it stopped instantly.
Then all the flowers stopped systematically, like boom.
The ever innovative God, she puts her hand on his hand, on Perry's hands, and the flowers start dancing like there's a breeze going on in there. She takes her hands off, and it stops. It's like an on-off switch.
Yeah, they were dancing. My brother loved to dance, see. He was a dancer for the family. He loved to dance.
And so do the flowers. Did it freak you out? What did it do for you?
It sort of freaked me out, but then in realization, I thought my brother let me know he was there with me.
Yeah.
He gave me a sign. My brother let me know everything's fine. I'm with you. I am with you. And the spirit is with me. I'm in heaven. Yeah. Don't worry about me. I'm fine.
That's beautiful.
You know?
And it says a lot for you, Terry. It really does. It says a lot for you that you get that experience too. I think that's a beautiful message from God himself. You know?
Yes, I do. I believe that because I was carrying a lot with me. Within a year and a half, the siblings were dying. It started with Perry. When Perry died, then my brother Frank died, and then my sister died. They all died within a year and a half. And the lady asked me that I got some professional help, for losing my siblings. She said, "Yeah." She says, "What keeps you going?" I said, "My faith, praying." She goes, "Well, just keep doing what you're doing because that's what's getting you through. That's what's getting." I said, "Well, you know what? That's what I'm doing, going to church and praying." I said, "That's what got me through the loss of my siblings and, losing everybody. Yeah. Because without prayer, without my faith, I couldn't even get up every day. I couldn't even move. I can't do nothing without my faith."
At another brother's funeral, her brother Frank, she's sitting there and she's sad, she's crying, and she opens up her purse to grab a Kleenex. And in so doing, she opens it up and she realizes that inside her purse, it's a glow. There's a light on inside her purse. And so then she realized, she's got this little gizmo. It's a light. It's also got a little fan in it, right? Well, anyway, the light switch is on, and so inside her purse, it's all aglow. Well, that little device was given to her by this brother, Frank.
And I thought, okay, Frank, all right. I know you're here. I know you're giving me a message. You're right there in front of me in the casket, and I know you're telling me you're fine. You're okay. You're in a good place. You're okay. So that message to me was inspiration, letting me know that my brother's looking over me and that he's always there. He's in heaven, and he's shining down, letting me know everything's okay.
Good for you. I so appreciate your faith. I love your faith. Every one of those things, someone who just does not have that part of them on can say, well, there obviously was some sort of vent in that funeral home. There had to be. And obviously you somehow nudged that flashlight, obviously.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly how, like my sister-in-law, she didn't believe about what happened at the funeral home and stuff. And I said, "You know what? You don't believe me, do you, about my brother or anything?" I said, I'm going to pray that Perry goes home to you and he gives you a sign, right? That's what I told her. So you know what? She called me up the next day. She goes, "Why did you do that?" She goes, "Because I tried to answer the phone and the phone was ringing, but it wasn't plugged in. The phone." She goes, "Why did you?" She goes, "Why did you say that to me?" I said, "Because you didn't believe me to begin with, and I prayed to my brother to give you a sign to let you know that this is real. This is not no phony baloney." And she had to actually call me to tell me about the phone ringing, and it wasn't even plugged in.
Wait a minute, this is a plug-in, like into the wall kind of phone?
Yeah.
And it rang without being plugged in.
Yes. Yes, to show you that these things really happen.
Did she answer? Did she pick it up?
Yes, she did.
Anybody home? No.
Yeah, here I am. I'm Perry. I come to visit you.
Hello from heaven. Well, look where the conversion is on this story. The sister-in-law. And all non-believers will go, no, that's not the way it works. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. No, it was just an electrical charge that was in the air making that phone ring. Isn't that great? The phone rings. Hello from heaven. These moments are dazzling. These conversations that we're having with God throughout our lives, they can be so dazzling. They can be so loud or they can be so subtle. But each one of them is inviting us to conversion, to go deeper and deeper and more Christ-like. Just wonderful lessons here by our three guests today. So I want to thank Chris and Diane and also Marty and, of course, Terry here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. And I would love to have your story as well. What is your story? What is your encounter? Share it with me at touchedbyheaven.net. Big shout out to Zoltan. How you doing, Zoltan? Zoltan Jaska, one of our supporters through Patreon. You can find your way through Patreon by going to this episode 58 at touchedbyheaven.net. Or you can go right to Patreon directly, patreon.com, and search for Trapper Jack. Thank you so much for listening this week to Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.
How do we get to listen to you?
Oh, you don't? No one does. I'm just talking to myself.
Okay.